so excited to invite our next guest on stage. She's going to offer us a perspective of what it means to be part of the VFX community in Montreal and in the ecosystem, plus some lessons she's learned along the way in her experience working on some films like The Avengers and from the people in the biz. So Stephanie Ross is the senior production operator at TD. She's been a VFX editor at companies like Frontier Visual Effects, Double Negative, and Outpost VFX. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Campus Party Canada. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm nervous, but I'm excited to be here.
Nervous? No.
I work in visual effects. I'm behind the camera. I got there for a reason.
Right. Okay, so maybe we can start with that just to make it easy. Can you tell me a bit about your journey to this stage?
Sure.
Your work history and just what you've been working on lately.
Sure. So I'm originally from Scotland. And I started at university in Glasgow, but I decided that ultimately university was not for me because it was very theoretical, write dissertations, write essays, thesis. And I wanted to get my hands on a camera, get my hands on Final Cut or Premiere. So I left university and I went to college, which I think here is probably equivalent to Cégep. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm unsure. But so I graduated from college. It was all very practical, 90% practical, and I decided that I really loved editing and being, like I said, behind the camera in post-production. So then I was trying to get a job down in London, because obviously it's the main hub in the UK. It's one of the main hubs in the world for film. And I did a lot of mega busing in between Glasgow and London, back and forth, and many night trains. And eventually I got a 1-week job as an intern just to help cover somebody's vacation. And while I was doing this job, they sent me on an errand, because that was my life for a week, doing errands. So they sent me on an errand to take some documents to a solicitor's company. So I was doing that, and I got in the elevator, and then the elevator broke down.
Oh.
So I was stuck in this elevator, and there was one other guy there, and we obviously got talking, because what are you going to do when you're stuck in an elevator for 45 minutes? And he worked at MPC. And this building was shared with MPC, and we were talking, and he's like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, I'm being a runner right now. I really want to work in film. And he's like, "Oh, you should email this woman and tell her I told you to email." And I did. And I guess the rest is history. That's how I got into visual effects 10 years ago.
This is like a fated encounter. So you never know where you're going to get your first job, I guess.
Right place, right time, right?
And then from there, what was your journey like? You were in the UK, and then you made your way over to Montreal. How?
Yeah, so I started as a runner in MPC in London. So it was, cleaning the dishwashers, cleaning the coffee machines, collecting everybody's dirty dishes, giving them dinner, blah, blah, blah. And then I went to be a production assistant, decided I'm not made for spreadsheets. So then I moved department again, and I ended up as a VFX editor, which is where I was like, okay, I found my calling for now. And eventually I ended up at DNAG, and when DNAG were opening their office in Montreal, they wanted people from my department to go, so I was like, I'll volunteer as tribute, and
wow.
I ended up here 4 years ago now. So
wow, okay, great. And I'm curious, we just saw this great video of Montreal in the summer. What you see is the difference in tech hubs between a place like London and a place like Montreal? Why is Montreal unique, or what do you notice about the differences between these two tech poles?
I feel like it's a lot more relaxed here.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like everybody's a bit more chill here.
Okay.
London could be intense, but I guess the whole city could be intense. So
Right.
I guess because we're there, it just all rubs off on everybody.
Gotcha. But there's a bit of joie de vivre in
Yeah.
Montreal. Okay, got it. So when we were doing a content call, you mentioned something that I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned that you're the only woman working in this highly technical place that you are at the moment. And I'm curious how it is to be the only one, and maybe what ideas you have for the industry in general to get more women and maybe non-binary people and queer people also in the door of these spaces.
Yeah, well, I think events like this are definitely important because I was talking to somebody else who was on stage a bit earlier that also works at MPC, and she has no idea what my job is, even though we're in the same company. So, I mean, that's how it can be. I had no idea about visual effects until I fell into visual effects, thanks
Right.
to that elevator ride. But being the only woman, I've actually find it's been fine for me. Like, I haven't experienced any overt sexism or exclusion, for me anyway. I can't talk for every woman in the industry. So I'm quite fortunate, and also I'm one of the seniors on the team, so it's really nice to be in this position where the other guys are coming to me, they respect me, they'll come for my opinion, and just because of me as a person, not because they don't feel anything against me because I'm a woman.
Right. Yeah. But do you think that there is anything that the VFX industry, should be thinking about doing or initiating to try to sort of maybe aim for parity?
I read a statistic earlier this year about how only, I think it's under 30% of the VFX workforce are actually female.
Okay.
And a lot of the women end up in more admin roles, like they'll end up in production or HR. And I think it's important to help like the women that are in the artist positions or in the technical positions like I am, and give them a voice and help them, because I feel like generally in the world, like males can be a lot more aggressive with like self-promotion and taking credit for things and just pushing themselves forward. So it can be easy to be like shoved to the back.
Right.
So I think it's important to like help these people.
Maybe build some confidence.
Exactly, and
Confidence
support them. And be
gap.
like,
Yeah. So for the women who are interested in the industry listening today in the room and also online, what message do you have for them about sort of getting that confidence and going for it? And why should they really look at this industry as a space for them?
I mean, if you're passionate about film and visual effects, and you have to be in our industry, because I won't lie, it's hard work, it's long hours, but we're all in this because we love it. Like I love my job, so I'm very like I don't mind. But I think it's also important to take your time. Don't try and just be like, okay, I need to be promoted, I need to be promoted. Like, take your time, get to know where you're at, because then I think it really benefits you as you progress, because you end up being the person with the most knowledge, because you're like, I fully understand where I just came from, I know the ins and outs of this pipeline, I know the ins and outs of this software, and you get to know the team. So
Yeah.
I think that's like highly beneficial for everybody. There's no point like just trying to speed your way up and be promoted just for the title if you're going to get there and be like, well, I'm very unsure and I don't have a clue, which I think can easily happen as well.
Okay. So maybe next we could talk a little bit about the nitty-gritty of your job. VFX, for people who might not know, like what's a day in the life? What kind of skills do you need? What kind of responsibilities do you have?
I mean, I think the main skill, not to be a cliche, but the main skill is definitely communication.
Okay.
Because basically, as a product CD, we're managing a ticket queue. So we're the support for the rest of the company. So I think as long as you tell people, yes, I see your issue, I understand it's important, but we're very busy because there's only 7 of us globally. As long as you're telling them, I see you and I understand it's an issue and we will get to it, it's fine. Because the second you just let their ticket just sit there and don't respond, that's when people get a bit angry
Okay.
and impatient.
Fair enough. So good communication, probably a lot of project management, managing expectations. So I'm curious, if you could tell us sort of about your career highlights. You worked on the Avengers.
I did. I did a little stint in stereo for 2 years, so that's some 3D conversion.
Okay.
So we did a lot of the Marvel movies, like the Avengers, which is very cool to say I have my name on the credits there.
Yes.
I remember going to the cinema when I was a teenager and being like, one day, and it actually happened.
Okay, so you've always had this dream.
Yeah, I used to work in a movie theater too, actually, and I would be the one cleaning up the popcorn after everybody had left. I'm like, maybe one day my name will be up there, and now it is. So.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of movies in your life.
Yeah, though weirdly less since I started in visual effects than before.
That is weird. Yeah.
I guess I spend my whole day at screens. So.
But it's like one of those things. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell who said, you need 10,000 hours. So you were already putting in your hours as a, movie theater worker. I'm curious, my next question is sort of about the future, because, you know, theaters and movies are now being streamed and distributed in such different ways. How do you see, you know, the VFX industry also evolving with the ecosystem?
Yeah, it's really quite unpredictable because everybody has said that 3D and AR and VR is the future.
Okay.
But then everybody also said that within our industry that we could never work from home. And then look what happened. We can work from home and we're still producing these massive blockbuster movies and it's been fine. There haven't been
Right.
any issues. So I know there's a lot of progression happening with automation with
Okay.
certain tools, but at the end of the day, it's a visual, so you'll always need humans with eyes to
Right.
ultimately approve things at the end of the day and be involved in the process.
Okay.
The robots will not take our jobs yet.
And for those who are listening and maybe want to, you know, get in there, what should they be studying right now besides, you know, watching a lot of movies? Like, where should they be thinking about applying themselves? I mean, you said you dropped out of university and went to college. I love that. I think sometimes, you know, we forget that there are these really technical programs that aren't, you know, typical. So where do you advise people who are curious about this industry to start on the ground level?
It's a hard one for me to say since I did drop out of university and I did just fall into the visual effects industry while knowing nothing about it. So I guess try and do some research if it is something that you think you would like to be interested in, because there are so many departments out there that people just don't have a clue.
Okay. And I just wanted to mention, by the way, that if any of you have questions, you can reach us via Slido, or you can raise your hand and I'll open the floor to you if you have any questions about getting in VFX on the ground floor. I'm curious, you know, recently what you've been reading, watching, or listening to in the VFX scene that's really inspired you or really sort of given you any aha moments about, you know, the future is unpredictable, but maybe where you think, you know, there's some good work being done or what people should be looking out for. I'm curious what inspires you or continues to inspire you in this space.
I mean, I'm not even about the visuals at this point. In my job, I'm all about pipeline configuration and all the back-end things, and that's what I'm really enjoying. Especially, I've only been a Prod Ops TD for the last 4 months now.
Okay.
So it's a massive learning curve, and I think that's what's exciting about visual effects. There's always going to be something new you can learn, and if you feel like you've leveled out of your role, you can jump on to the next one. There's like so many opportunities, and now I'm learning a lot more. And I've already been in the industry for 10 years, and there's a lot more for me to learn.
Yeah. Someone was talking, or I think I accidentally, and I'm so sorry to whoever put in the question, about a director named Kevin Feig. Is that for you? I don't know. But who is your favorite, who's been the favorite, you know, director or favorite person that you've worked with in these big films? Any names you want to drop that you enjoyed?
When I was a runner, actually, I got so psyched because I was pulled in to work a Saturday shift, which I wasn't psyched about. But then it turned out a client was coming in, and it was Tim Burton.
Oh.
And I was so excited.
Wow.
And that was just as a runner, so it's sometimes worth it. So
Okay,
some of my best experiences were as a runner, so
Nice. And what is he like in real life?
really nice,
Okay.
very polite. And he actually spoke to us. Some people would make their assistants, you know, tell us their coffee order.
Right.
He actually spoke to me, which
Oh,
was
that's good. Okay, anonymous questioner, thank you for putting the question back in. How was it to work with Kevin Feig? Is that name I'm saying correctly? Feige.
I'm unsure who that is.
Oh, so maybe this question was
apologies.
not for you. I'm sorry, we've got the Kevin Feige?
I'm unsure.
Oh,
And it's not anybody I've worked with directly.
I missed that. Can
Yeah.
you, sorry?
Kevin Feige,
He's the CEO
Marvel.
of Marvel.
Well, obviously, I never spoke to him.
Okay, there's like a hierarchy, you know, like, you know.
I'm like behind the scenes of behind the scenes, so.
Okay, so unfortunately, no direct contact, unlike Tim Burton. Fair enough. But yeah, I guess you know the Avengers are such a huge franchise, and Marvel has captured the attention of everybody. And I'm curious if you, after watching all these films and working on all these films, if you have figured out, what is the formula or the secret sauce that makes a movie explode in public consciousness? Like, have you figured out what it is about certain titles or certain, narrative arcs that really make the audience go wild? Or is it random? Like, is there a secret? Curious.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there must be a perfect recipe out there. For example, I mean, I don't know how many people have seen Dune yet, but it was incredible, and the remake was incredible, and I guess it just came down to great teams at every single level of the movie, not just visual effects, like everything.
That's true. I think, yeah, that makes the dream work for sure. We have another question here, actually, about your experience now when you're watching movies. Do you enjoy them, or do you just see the VFX happening and notice the flaws that the rest of us do not?
Yeah, that has slightly changed the way I watch things. I definitely can tell. Well, I can't always tell because like the artists are so talented. It's so well done, but you get an idea of like, yeah, that's going to be VFX. I really love to ruin the Bond movies that come on at Christmas every year for my mom.
Oh.
Someone was like, that helicopter's fake, Mom, and she doesn't appreciate it.
Oh, really? You like burst through that third wall. Yeah. She just, everybody wants to believe, right? But I guess when you're in VFX, you know all the tricks.
Yeah, and it can be the most mundane things that are being added. There was like one movie where I know they just had to add a pile of tables. And, like, they could have just had a pile of tables, but they didn't. We had to create a pile of tables.
Do you ever feel like VFX is sometimes used too much, or it's sort of a crutch that certain films sort of latch onto if they don't maybe have the budget for extra tables? Or what's the limit? Like, what's the perfect percentage or the perfect amount of VFX in a movie compared to real live objects?
It's hard to say this as well, because I feel like a lot of VFX is also done because it's in hindsight. When they're viewing the rushes, they'll be like, okay, we can see this wig line on this person, which they couldn't see while they were filming or they weren't paying attention. So then it's now come a visual effects problem where we have to remove the wig line.
Okay, so it becomes your problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, we'll fix it in post. Yeah. Is that an attitude on set?
I don't know. I would hope not, but maybe.
Oh, okay. I'm curious based on like the number of, wrinkle lines you see that show up at your desk. We do have another couple questions. Thank you, audience. Someone is asking, where do you meet other VFX workers, or where can you meet them if you're not in the community? Like, what events or what online spaces would you recommend for people to go to try to find that tribe?
There's definitely events on like SIGGRAPH, and I know in Montreal there's various events on that the VES Society put on. And even places like Comic-Cons and stuff, because that's where it's the kind of place that we all want to hang out, because we're all kind of nerds, really.
Fair enough. Another question here is, the top box office sales are all VFX heavy. Do you think VFX is more important these days than the actors? Controversial question.
I don't know what I'm expected to say here, because without visual effects, I wouldn't have a job.
Right.
But no, I prefer movies with less VFX, to be honest.
Okay.
I prefer like the drama-driven stories with the good actors.
Right, because it's emotionally triggering.
Exactly.
Like
I would
VFX
rather
has
that
a
than
limit.
Yeah. I don't need explosions all the time.
Right. So we talked about like the perfect formula of how much VFX versus acting. In your opinion, it's a little less, but well decided VFX as opposed to, the more the merrier.
Exactly, like invisible VFX. I feel is the best kind.
Okay, you don't even know.
Exactly.
You're not gonna ruin the movies like you do for your mom. It's when you don't even notice. Okay, cool. So another question we have, the last question probably is: have you ever thought about perhaps teaching in this industry to try to encourage, or what's next for you in your career? Like, what's your goals for what's coming next?
Do you know what? When I was growing up, when I was at primary school, when everybody would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up, my answer was actually a teacher.
Oh,
So maybe it could be a thing some days, though. But for me, I definitely want to learn more. Like, I want to learn some more programming languages like Python, because now I have that opportunity to do so for my job. That's going to be really beneficial.
okay. So we gotta hook you up with Frincy, who was here earlier. She was in AI. Oh. Nice. Okay. Cool. So obviously, coding is something that you're thinking about. That's great.
I wish it had been something when I was at school, because now it's becoming a bigger thing for
Right.
teaching kids at school this, and it really wasn't a thing
Right.
when I was at school, at least
Okay,
in
so
my little school in Scotland.
So you think that the needle has moved on?
Yeah, definitely.
on teaching kids about tech and getting them involved.
But
in
yeah,
this
but it's also the world is progressing so quickly, and that matters. So
Right.
we have no choice now.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, with the last few seconds of this interview, I'm hoping I can roll out the red carpet for you, and you can tell us what you're working on and where we should follow you and what's next for you and where to connect.
I can't actually say what I'm working on currently.
Okay. Great. That's exciting.
NDAs are a thing, so I'm not allowed to name drop any projects.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would love to hint, but I can't.
That's okay. I don't want to get you in trouble. Where should people be following you or following your business? Where can people?
Well, MPC are one of the big players in visual effects, so you'll find them everywhere.
Okay, cool. So just follow on social. And any final words for the crowd in real life or online today about getting into VFX?
No, just in a nutshell, like I said, just you can start at the bottom and work your way up, and just be a nice people person.
Okay, be kind. Maybe you'll have a
Definitely.
fated chance in an elevator. Thank you
True.
so much for coming in and chatting with us about your experience. It's been really nice to talk to you, and,
Yeah.
and we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Big round of applause. Thanks so much. Okay, so I'm happy to invite the next guest to the stage. She's a data scientist who brings a wealth of experience to those clients in Move AI to guide them on their journey. Mary Odette St. Hilaire has a PhD in applied mathematics and has been involved in AI, data, and connected object projects in the field of smart cities, smart mobility,